Forward looking. Lay it off. Patrick. Ariel sends it in. Off of Gressel. Made it to Elliott. Oh! Julian Carlson. A spectacular finish. Philadelphia.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And not only did your Philadelphia Union lose last night to Nashville, you had the United States men's national team just fall to Mexico in the Gold Cup final by a score of 2-1, with Chris Richards getting the early goal for the U.S. in the 4th minute, followed by 2 consecutive Mexico goals, one by Raul Mendez and then one by Alvarez, I believe it was, late in the second half. And yeah, unfortunate for the United States men's national team to blow the lead, to lose to Mexico in the Gold Cup. Unfortunate that the Union conceded a late, and I do mean late, penalty kick last night against Nashville in the 101st minute. But you know what else has been late? You know what else has been a long time coming? That is José Nuñez joining back. Jose, welcome back to the show. It's been a long time. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us here.
No, thank you for inviting me. Long day. We have the Sunday package with my in-laws for the Phillies, Philadelphia Phillies, and woke up this morning after being at my brother's overnight, watching the soccer game and whatever reporting, clipping stuff and whatnot. Woke up this morning and sort of saw some decent tickets for like $35 a pop. So we took Rafael, Benicio, myself, and my wife. And I was telling you before we hit record, but the highlight of the whole day was not even the game for my kids. It was getting on the subway. So it's almost comical that that's the thing that they focus on, the thing that they hang on. But learning the names of the different stations, the Villanova, Haverford, Wynwood, like it was really cool. And congratulations to all the Mexican fans out there. I'm gonna celebrate my first second Modelo for all of you. I personally don't really have an allegiance to the U.S. or Mexico when it comes to international soccer. So cheers to them.
Yeah, U.S. fall 2-1 to Mexico, and Jared in here, Mexico. Woo, really happy. He says, "What's up, Todd Goat?" Michael says that was sad for America. Cord Blaney says, "Man, Union dropped a horrific game." Steve Martin says, "Let's freaking go, homies." Cord says, "Upper man totally defensive breakdown." Michael says, "Ajuman couldn't do a damn thing." Jillian checking in says, "What's up, Go Phils?" Eric says, "Sup, guys?" And then Cord also says, "Team got way too passive upper man. We have no offensive creativeness." And man, we do have lots to say about that Union game. But I do want to say one thing real quick, Jose, that you talked about. Your kid's happy about the subway. My experience with you was the complete opposite. That was the worst. When you and I, back in April, went up to New York City. And I can't remember if we told that story in the show or not, but man, I've never sweated as much in my life. And you're like, well, it's because you're wearing a pea coat. But, when there's an accident not even half a mile away from the train station and you make the train with 2 minutes to go, so hectic. And then our train being delayed in New York City. And it's like, oh, God, is my car still going to be there? And the exit that I wanted to go out in the train station was closed. And it's like, great. Now we got to walk all the way to this train station. Luckily enough, we were able to walk to your car and you drove me. But yeah, I had the complete opposite experience, and I'm glad your kids had a great time on the train. And maybe I'll leave extra early next time I get on a train with you wherever we travel. But yeah, I did also want to say for the listeners, I don't know if you've ever said this on Across the Pitch, and I don't even know if you've said this on this show or even on social media. But before we record it, I went out running. I tried to get my inner José Nuñez out. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Jose can run 5 miles in 32 minutes, like with ease. It's insane how fast he runs. Sometimes it's like 30 minutes. I'm nowhere near that. And my legs are killing me. My lungs, not what they are. But I try to live out my inner José Nuñez before we went live. And that was disappointing that I couldn't get anywhere close to José Nuñez levels.
I'm not sure that I'm the benchmark that you want to go up against. So the last thing I'll say about the subway, especially in New York, and you get to experience how and why my heart rate goes so high when I'm coming home from New York to Philadelphia. Our train back was delayed, and the board was not updating onto when the train was actually leaving. And actually, we caught it with what, like a minute before it was about to depart, because then suddenly they said this train's leaving. It's like, where were the announcements? There was no platform for us to even know to be near. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's funny what the kids hang on to, cling on to, and I'm glad you went out running, Todd. Stay healthy, take care of yourself. Health is wealth.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I try to stay active pretty much every day. Even if I'm working a 11-hour shift at work, it's like, let's go. Even though, I'm on my legs all day, on my feet all day, it's like, still a good run. Make time to run. Get those lungs working. But yeah, speaking of keeping those lungs running, Nashville had to keep those lungs running last night. Down a man against the Union, finding a late game-winning goal with Hany Mukhtar in the 101st minute off of a penalty kick to beat the Union 1-0. And I mean, there's just so much, Jose, to talk about this game. I mean, we'll talk about Cavan Sullivan making his first career start. I had said this to you and a couple other people last night. Like, it sucks that the biggest takeaway from this game that people are going to have is, oh, Cavan Sullivan, he made his first career start for the Union. So we'll obviously touch on that. We'll talk about the Union's lack of goals, chance creation in the last 3 games. A couple of you guys have already mentioned that in the show topics tonight. We'll talk about Bruno Damiani, his non-goal involvement pretty much throughout the whole season. Is it a concern? Is it not? I've seen a lot of negative comments on social media, which isn't the benchmark, but I do think it is interesting to see that side of the fan base that it feels like the whole walls are just caving down. Like, oh my God, Bruno Damiani is a big bust. So we're talking about that. But I guess we'll go ahead and talk about, I mentioned it, Jose, the Union being up a man for over 30 minutes. Perez gets a straight red card for a high boot challenge on Tai Baribo. I know you and I had talked about this in one of our group chats that we're in. Was it harsh? Was it a red card? You had different opinions than me and everything. And I do understand what you're saying and everything. I do think that Perez had no intention of hitting Tai Baribo. I think his momentum took him. He had that high boot trying to play the ball, wasn't even aware that Tai Baribo was there. But unfortunately, his momentum took him into Tai Baribo, and he hits him right in the face. Baribo's trying to make a play on the throw-in from Kai Wagner, and it's unfortunate for Tai Baribo, who makes his first appearance since May 31st against FC Dallas.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with that, right? Because this was very much a situation of reasonable minds can defer, right? Because I too can see where you're coming from in terms of Perez and this red card, and really, in a way, totally changing the dynamics of the game, but not really changing the game plan for the Union. At least it felt like it was more of the same. But with that red card, it felt harsh. I felt that Perez had a pretty clean game, no intention of harming anybody. I don't recall kicking the ball away from somebody trying to take a throw in, for example, which we saw Palacios do at one point, if I recall correctly. So I have made that play playing high school and summer ball, college ball, whatever. But like, that's just one that you just try to get the ball. That's all you're trying to do. And almost like, it almost felt like Baribo's face landed on the bottom of his of his boot, right? Of like just the way it happened so quickly. But it ultimately didn't matter. And it probably, I think BJ Callahan will tell you, no, like it absolutely matters, because now they're without this guy for a minimum of 3 games, right? When it's an automatic red. So especially with Nashville getting into a very busy stretch of the season here. So I don't envy Perez. I don't know, Todd. Do you think this is one that they appeal? I can't imagine that they appeal something like this. I'm not sure. I doubt it, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be shocked, honestly, if they go in and try to appeal this. And I'd be shocked if they'd appealed it and won it, honestly, right? Because, I mean,
Right.
it was a straight red card, and they didn't even go to VAR, I don't think, to go and review it. And I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard to overturn that again. I don't think that Perez meant to kick Tai Baribo in his face. I think that his momentum took him into Tai Baribo. Both players are trying to make a play on the ball, but unfortunately, Baribo's one who winds up getting kicked in the face and everything. And yeah, I mean, more times than not, when you see stuff like that happen, it's going to be a card. I mean, look, Jacob Glesnes could have given away a penalty, I believe, in the first minute. He had a boot on, I forget who it was. He had a boot on in the penalty box off of a corner kick, I believe it was. And they said there was nothing there. Palacios, it was, I think, that he went with the challenge
Yeah.
one. I can't remember. And so, I mean, the Union potentially got away with one. They almost got away with one with Alouette Macanya's challenge on Hany Mukhtar, which I think that was, and we can go ahead and talk about it since I just brought it up. I do think that was the right call by the referee to go ahead and allow play to continue. And when the ball went out of stoppage, then they went to VAR and said, yeah, this is pretty clear and obvious. And I think that's exactly what you want to see with the referee. And credit to Nashville, right? They go down, no penalty given. The Union turn the ball away, and then Nashville come right back down. They're down a man, and then Andre Blake comes up with a huge save against Ahmed, and then the ball finally goes out of play. They go to VAR, and they're like, okay, yeah, that is a penalty kick. But the fact of the matter is, the Union are up for 30-plus minutes in this game. And again, they lack creating chances. You have that almost goal by Kai Wagner. We can talk about that later if you want, or we can talk about it now, whatever you want, where I thought it was kind of a super play, right? Jacob Glesnes like kicks the ball backwards to Kai Wagner. Wagner hits it from a long distance. And I'm like, why not just let Wagner take the free kick? And I don't know. They would probably say, well, it almost worked and everything, but I don't know. I thought that was a weird set piece situation there, and almost came off for the Union. Bruno Damiani, again, I don't want to talk about him too much because we're talking about him later on the show, had a couple chances in this game, but yeah, the fact of the matter is you're up 30-plus minutes and Nashville's the one who had the better chances than you. It makes zero sense to me. And this is like, it should make sense because this has been the Union since they've been a team. They've always struggled a man up.
Yeah, and this is where I struggle with this team, where I think we spoke about it at a different occasion this season. I can't recall exactly when, but this is a team that, even having this man advantage, they thrive on chaos, right? And I think Carnell would probably label it if he hasn't already. I don't mean to pull this term out of thin air, but like, he and his players, at least the way that they're set up now in terms of roster build and characteristics of the players, etc., like, it is all about getting the ball fast up the field, not breaking down teams that are putting a block down to have them cough it up and then hopefully counterattack, etc. The way that that Nashville did. So kudos to them for figuring it out. But I know my initial opinion, or my initial reaction, I'm so sorry, shortly after the red card was kind of a, ooh, that's gonna sting, and not for Nashville, but rather for Philadelphia, right? Because I knew the type of ball that we were gonna be watching for the remainder of the game. Is it concerning? I think so. Is it a result of the players that they have? Absolutely. Was it a penalty at the end? Just sort of touching base on everything you mentioned, Todd. Absolutely. I think it was. I think, some will say that it was sold, it was this, it was that. But the reality is that, and I actually put down in my notes, I'm staring at the notes I took yesterday. Owethu, pure diesel all game, but just one moment that just sort of took the sails, the wind out of his sails. And the reality is this, and I said this on the Across the Pitch show. I was walking my dog as soon as I got home from my brother's. Was you sure have every right to be sort of upset about this loss and the fact that they couldn't figure it out with a man advantage through 30 minutes, etc. I totally understand that. I can totally get where those feelings are coming from. But the reality is, when you look even at the table, right, and you look at MLS as a whole, I guess this is just the Eastern Conference, but they lost to Columbus by a single play, who I think is a Shield contender, despite being where they are right now. There's still a lot of ball to be played, and certainly Nashville, who are for sure Shield contenders, considering that they just leapfrogged over the Union in terms of the Eastern Conference, and certainly obviously the supporter Shield as well. And the reality is that they lost 2 games, and I'm trying to get this information super quick, Todd, so bear with me as I do it. But as I look at the entire supporter Shield, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Six out of the top 10 teams are Eastern Conference teams, right? Minnesota's Eastern, or is it Western? It's Western, right? I'm sorry, it's Western. Yeah. So six out of the 10 teams and the top 10 are Eastern Conference teams, and the two teams that they lost by a single play, despite having Quinn Sullivan gone and having to play an Alejandro Bedoya at 38 in different positions that maybe he's not used to, only lose by a single play. I think there's a lot of good to come out of that. Not to be complacent, which I guess is the word that I often get attributed with, but I think that's just the reality, right? I don't think I'm speaking lies into a microphone right now as you're showing this. I don't know where you stand on that whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my first takeaway is looking at the top 10 for people that are listening on the RSS feed. You have Cincinnati in first place with 42 points, second, Nashville 41, Philadelphia in third with 40, fourth, San Diego 39, which, by the way, San Diego lost a crazy game last night, 4-3 to Houston Dynamo. Vancouver in fifth, 38 points, tied with Columbus at 38 points, Minnesota seventh with 37, eighth, Orlando City 34, ninth, Portland 33, and then 10th into Miami 32. And there's a whole bunch of games to be made up by Miami. They're at 17, and they could really go on a roll here. Vancouver has a game to be made up, as does Portland Timbers, and that's everybody. So, I mean, the Union, yes, sit in third place in the Supporters Shield standings, and they can be leapfrogged by even more teams. But, yeah, you're right, Jose. Looking at a Cincinnati where the Union went out at the beginning of the season, beat them 4-1, I believe it was. And this is a team that was still in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And how many times have we seen when the Union are in that competition, they struggle in MLS play? A lot of teams do. I mean, it's normal because they prioritize league's CONCACAF Champions Cup. And yeah, the results may not be there midweek for MLS games, or I guess the weekend games, because you're playing midweek in CONCACAF Champions Cup. And so I don't know if I really buy too much into that result. Again, Cincinnati early in the season, you had I think a statement win to start this season against Orlando City 4-2. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Correct me if I'm wrong. That was Frankie Westfield's debut starting at right back, and a lot of positive takeaways in that game against Orlando City. But then I flipped the script to Nashville. And Nashville's the first team this season that's beat the Union in both fixtures at Subaru Park and now away. And this is a really, really, really good Nashville team. And you had heard it, and people who haven't listened to the press conference prior to this game against Nashville, it seems like both games, it's just a lot of love from Bradley Carnell with BJ Callahan, respecting how BJ Callahan wants a coach, what he's done to turn around Nashville in such a short amount of time, right? BJ hasn't even been there a year, or it's just been a year now, I believe. I mean, it's coming up close to a year. And so, yeah, I would argue this still isn't exactly BJ Callahan's team. Still a lot of contracts and moves to be made to get rid of contracts that he inherited when he took over for Gary Smith. But it is pretty impressive to see what BJ Callahan's been able to do, which, by the way, former Jim Curtin assistant coach, and Ursinus, right? Alumni, right?
Ursinus alum, yes.
Yeah, crazy. I mean, the connections. And yeah, Nashville sitting in second place in the Supporters Shield, only 1 point behind Cincinnati with a record of 12-4-5. Like, this is definitely not a team to sleep on. They're a very, very talented team. And a lot of comments we're talking about, and I'll pull them up again. I'm just talking about, the Union have struggled with missing players due to injury, due to international duty. I believe I have a clip lined up someplace where Bradley Carnell talks about that. But yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, right, that I don't think, and yeah, the Union were the leaders in the supporters show for the last couple of weeks, but I don't think they are the best team in MLS. I think they are a good team, but you have a game against Columbus where both teams are missing key players, and you give up a goal to Mo Farsi because it's a lack of defensive awareness from Kai Wagner on that play. You give up a late equalizer to Columbus earlier in the season because, again, lack of defensive awareness on a set piece. You give up a late goal against Nashville off of a penalty kick. You get a penalty against Chicago Fire, who we haven't even talked about. Chicago Fire, I think, is a really good team. They're
Mhm.
14th in the Supporter Shield standings, and in the Eastern Conference, they sit in 9th place. I think this is a team that's better than 9th place in the East.
They're
But
just awful at home, which is unbelievable. They're
it
dog shit at home.
it is insane. It's like the Union last year, right? They're doing exactly what the Union did last year, where they struggled at Subaru Park, but they were good on the road. But yeah, you only get a penalty kick against Chicago Fire. You struggle to create many chances against them. And I know, again, you're missing a lot of key players, injury, international duty, but good teams find ways to get results. You found a way to get a result against Chicago. You couldn't get a result against Columbus, and you couldn't get a result last night against Nashville. I think sitting there watching that match, I think it would have been okay if the Union would have came away with a point. But the fact of the matter is, right, it wasn't meant to be. They give up a late penalty kick. I understand why Makanya makes that challenge, but the whole play, and we didn't even talk about it, shouldn't have happened. And I
I
really don't
can I
want to.
can I
Yeah,
contest that, Todd? I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
I don't I don't get why Makanya made that challenge, actually, as I think of
Yeah.
the angles.
The angle, yeah, exactly. I mean, Mukhtar is trying to cut inside, go towards goal and everything, and he's going towards the end line, right? And that's when Makanya then puts into the challenge and everything. Does he need to make that challenge? Maybe not. But
Because
what I was
Blake
going to
was
argue,
right there.
yeah, exactly. Blake could have cut off the angle potential. I mean, you never know. And again, like these plays happen so quickly, and they all happen so fast, and I'm totally aware of that. And so it's like when we get back and talk about this, and we watch the plays and everything. I mean, it's just all happened so quickly. But it's got to be better defending from Makanya on that play. I'm watching it now, and I don't want to go ahead and show it on the stream in case Apple's watching and they shut down the live stream. But yeah, and just Makanya gets outmuscled by Hany Mukhtar, and that should never happen. And you're right. I mean, watching this, Andre Blake's at the near post. He's cutting this off, and why Makanya makes that challenge, he catches up to him, good on him. And you had pointed out a play earlier in the game where Makanya had slipped on the left side of the field, and then he makes a tackle. He has great recovery speed, but when he's going towards the end line, when Andre Blake's there to cut off the angle, it's a fair point. Does Makanya need to make that challenge? But what I was going to argue, this whole play shouldn't have happened. It happens with Lovitz taking a throw in on the left-hand side of the field, throwing it towards Teal Bunbury, and you have Olivier Bizo heading the ball backwards into
Mhm.
Hany Mukhtar. And I hate, trying to put all the blame on him, but you think about it, Makanya's been, I mean, Bizo's been involved in a lot of the Union's worst plays. Gave up a play against New York City in 2021, gives up the game-winning goal to Gareth Bale. Yes, I know that it was Jack Elliott's guy. He loses him, whatnot, but it's like just close down a throwing guy. And yeah, there's been other plays too. And now this is just the latest plays. I mean, I can think, Jose, you and I, we have
I have a
a file
folder.
of mistakes that Mbizer's made, and now this is the latest to it. And we had talked, or I had talked on the show, you have talked in group chats and everything, like, no offense to Alejandro Bedoya, he's not a right back, and he's done well filling in temporarily, but they really need a right back. And Bizer had been out the last couple games with that adductor injury. Now you finally get Bizer back in, and he makes a huge mistake and heads the ball backwards to Mukhtar. And does Makanya need to make that challenge? Probably not after watching that play like 50,000 times now.
Yeah, and and I'm looking at my notes. Believe it or not, and this is where I think Hany is just one of those players that, despite what people from the Athletics say, whether he's a superstar or not, he was the player with the fewest touches all match, and he went on and made the difference. So it goes to show that, like, yeah, even though it was from the PK spot, it only took one single play for him and his team to turn around and walk away, or I mean, I guess stay home. Deliver the 3 points to the fans. And kudos to two sets of people, by the way. The traveling Union fans, who I think Mandy's one of them, was she's on our chat, I think, today. But also the Nashville supporters. That sounded like a very, very loud stadium. So kudos to the fan base. I'm sure that experience was good to anybody that traveled. I hope everybody got home safely. But I still stand on that business, Todd. I don't know that the challenge needed to be made, and this is where Owethu's learning some lessons very, very quickly about what to do, what not to do, and full speed doesn't look like a penalty. Slow it down, clear as day of penalty.
Yeah, exactly. Cole says, in all fairness, buys are kind of hard to get into a rhythm when you barely
Sure.
play, which is fair, right? I mean, he's essentially the third choice right back on this team. He's been out with injuries, and yeah, I agree. It is hard to get into a rhythm and everything, but at the same time, right, you got to lock in defensively. And now that's been back-to-back weeks now that we've seen defensive mistakes from the Union fullbacks that have now led to a goal being conceded. And yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the Union conceded late on in this game. A lot of good comments, you guys. I appreciate it. Also, up to 500 people watching the show, which we're only 25 minutes in. So, yeah, who would have thought that people would show up for a loss, back-to-back losses? But I guess, judging by the comments tonight, there's a ton of people with a lot of thoughts on the game. One other thing that I want to bring up, though, Jose, was the lineup. We had talked about Olivier Baze replacing Alejandro Bedoya. You have Jacob Glesnes back into the lineup, playing as a center back, replacing Jesus Bueno, who played in the midfield last game. Bradley Carnell had said after the game, I believe, that Bueno missed this game because he re-aggravated his hamstring once again. We know that he suffered a hamstring injury against Charlotte a few games ago, and then he was available the next few games, and now he misses the game against Nashville because he re-aggravated that hamstring. Cavan Sullivan replaces Ben Bender. Then Chris Donovan replaces Marcus Anderson. I mean, just overall looking at the starting 11 for the Union. And I guess, I mean, maybe if you want to, Jose, we can go ahead and talk about Cavan Sullivan making the start. But I mean, before we get into that, if you want to, I mean, your thoughts on the lineup that Bradley Carnell went with last night?
I think it was all fine, honestly, all things considered. I think of maybe two players, and one we're about to talk about, and then another one that is at the very tippy top, number 25 for the Philadelphia Union, that maybe deserves a conversation in a way. But what else can he do, right? Quinn Sullivan would certainly step in and make a difference. Frankie Westfield would certainly step in and make a difference, I like to think. Obviously he injured, unfortunately, but it's a totally fine lineup. I'm just glad that Glesnes was back and was honestly, again, like, it was a 90th minute. It was a 90th minute play. I think I don't know, Todd. Let me ask you this: with the man advantage, had it been a tie, would you have been disappointed?
With a man advantage. Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, right? It's like you should win games with a man up, but just knowing how this team struggles against a man up, I think honestly I would have taken the draw, especially seeing how the game went at Subaru Park, where yeah, the Union just were outbeaten physically by Nashville in that game, and yeah, a lot of referee controversy in that game. But I think honestly, with the players still out for the Union, with how good of a team that Nashville is, and how difficult of a place it is to play at Giardi's Park, I think, yeah, it's harsh to say, like, with a man up, I think I still would have taken a point. I think that would have been a good starting block for this team to get back into it, because coming up and the results, okay, now the Union with Quinn Sullivan, Nathan Harriel coming back from international duty from the Gold Cup. You have New York Red Bulls in US Open Cup. Then you have them over the weekend in MLS play. Then you have CF Montreal doing a midweek game in MLS. And then you go out to Houston. Houston's going to be difficult just because of the heat and the temperature and all that. And New York Red Bulls is always a difficult game. And it'll be interesting to see how Bradley Carnell approaches both the US Open Cup game. And then you see the same team once again in League's Cup, in the league. So what does Bradley Carnell do different in those two games? But, these are, and I say with air quotes, winnable games, looking at the table. Sure. And everything. All the teams are below you. You have New York Red Bulls, who sit in 8th place in the Eastern Conference. You have Houston, who sits in 8th place, and then you have Montreal, who sits in 15th. And so you're playing against teams that, on paper, you should beat. We know it's not as easy as it should be, but on paper, yeah, it should look like it should be easy for the Union to get results, easier opponents compared to the Columbus Crews of the world or the Nashvilles that the Union just had to go out on the road to play. And now you come back home to Subaru Park, have 3 games at home where you've been good this season. Yes, you've been good on the road as well. One of the best teams in MLS on the road. But I think this is a good restart for this team to come back home. And like Bradley Carnell had said I think I even won my clips where, yeah, it's going to be nice to come back home, get back into a regular rhythm with training and everything and train the way that the team wants to train. And hopefully that makes a difference.
Yeah. And that's just it, right? I had the opportunity. I was assigned more than anything. I had the opportunity to write about the Minnesota Dallas game this week. And interestingly enough, talking to Eric Ramsey. I just called him Eric during the interview part because it was just me and him and one random person on the post match press conference. It was literally an interview for my article. They I don't think that they even consider going as far as they have in the U.S. Open Cup, considering that tomorrow they have a friendly scheduled and then they play on Tuesday. So it's a weird thing when you try to map out these things ahead of time, but. Listen, I said it last night with Mike and Jillian. I think we all very quickly forget about Columbus and very quickly forget about the result against Nashville. Should the Union win 2-0 against New York Red Bulls in a quarterfinal, right? Like I feel like that's the fastest way to turn the page. I also do believe that this is one where Bradley will want to put all the eggs in the basket. I do have questions of what happens with Andrew Rick, right? The U.S. Open Cup has kind of been his tournament. Do they go ahead and make that his tournament, or is this Andre Blake's tournament now, right? Now that it's in the it's always meaningful every single game because it's, win and move on type of thing. But now that it's at a quarterfinal with the chance of a semifinal and then a final, like, does Andre Blake take over? So that's a topic for another day or maybe later, but yeah, just wanted to ask that question because I personally would have been perfectly happy with a draw away at Nashville on a top 10 supporter shield team with Quinn Sullivan gone, Nate Harriel away, and having to put the roster that they put together for a starting lineup. I would have been totally okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, looking at the U.S. Open Cup. If the Union are to advance past New York Red Bulls, we know that the remaining of the games for the Union would be away. The final would be away, but it's Nashville versus DC United, which is crazy to think how bad DC United's been in MLS this season in a quarterfinal. The Union could theoretically go right back down to Geodis Park if they advance past New York Red Bulls, and if Nashville beat DC United. Nashville is at home against DC United for the quarterfinals. So a coach that seems to have the Philadelphia Union's number and BJ Callahan. I don't know. I mean,
this better not be Columbus 2 years ago when they won all three matches. What was it?
Union, yeah.
Yeah, MLS Leagues Cup MLS.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be hard. Very, very hard to watch.
But seeing how good this Nashville team is, it's very, very possible. But of course, got to see how they do against New York Red Bulls this Wednesday and then in the league. But yeah, lineup. Yeah, I was happy to see the Union go with a actual right back in Olivier Bazo. Didn't create a lot of chances like I would have hoped that he created. Because yeah, I mean, Bazo is more offensive than he is defensively, but Union really struggled to create a ton of chances. Again, don't really want to talk about that too much yet, but it is a topic that a lot of people are talking about. Is Cavan Sullivan's first career start with the Union, plays 61 minutes last night. Previously, he played 45 minutes against Columbus Crew last weekend, came in as a second half substitute. Cavan last night for the Union recorded 22 touches, completed 5 out of 12 passes, won 3 out of 3 tackles, and 5 out of 6 aerials, which I had joked to you. I was like, I cannot believe Cavan Sullivan's winning headers right now. Like, how is Nashville letting this happen? And a lot of comments. Jose, I'd saved some of them. But this one came from Connor early in the show, said Cavan just isn't ready. He needs to get regular minutes off the bench, 10, 15 minutes. John says, at least we get Quinn back now. Michael said Cavan needs to stay at Union 2. Eric said Cavan needs to stay at Union 2 rest of the season. He's not ready for the first team. And then Mike Barrera said Cavan just wasn't impactful enough, but he's 15. I don't think he's shown enough in his performances to warrant to start. To Carnell's credit, though, he tried something different with the offensive slumping. And that's exactly it, right? That Carnell knew that they needed a spike, and he decided to go with Cavan Sullivan to try to ignite a struggling offense the last couple games. And again, we'll break down that a little bit more offensively because, look, the Union really struggled these last 2 games against Chicago Fire, against Columbus Crew. 1 goal against Chicago, a penalty kick. No goal against Columbus, only 6 shots in that game, and no shots on target. So the Union really, really struggled these last 2 games. And so I understand why Bradley Carnell had tried something different. And yeah, hindsight's always 50-50. If you would have known that Nashville would have got a red card in this game, then maybe it would have been better for Cavan Sullivan coming off the bench. But offensively, he didn't really bring that spark that I think that Bradley Carnell and this coaching staff would have hoped for.
Where to begin with this? Maybe it's and I mentioned this last night, but maybe it's a bit of a backhand compliment to say this, but in watching this game and sitting next to my brother who doesn't coach the highest level of soccer, but certainly coaches soccer, has coached enough soccer, he sort of said, I don't really think he made a difference. And is that sort of a compliment in a way, though, Todd? Because he's a 15-year-old. He didn't take away from the team, but he really didn't make too much of a difference on a game against adults. So I guess maybe kudos to him in that aspect. But the reality is, and I want to congratulate him for whatever this pre-deal is with Manchester City. I want to congratulate the Union and their staff for all the work that they have done. But the reality is that, like, if it's, what's the reported figure for him? $5 million to City?
6.
To Manchester City, that's a rounding error on a spreadsheet. Okay?
You do it all the time with young players.
Right. So, like, I get that it's not a lot of money for Manchester City. It's a good bit of money for the Union. And I also do believe that Jim was right, and I think that Carnell has done a great job. I mean, look at Frankie Westfield, right? Like in throwing some of these youth players. Think about Sal Olivas and getting his opportunity, David Vasquez, etc. I wish GJ Oldney would get a shot, etc. But the idea of, if you're good enough, you're old enough. I don't know how much last night's game really helped this brand or the brand of the Union, right? Outside of an MLS communications post that said he's the second youngest player to play or start an MLS game. Okay, great. They lost despite being a man up. So, like, I and if this is a pre-deal with Manchester City, and if there is a contingency of benchmarks that he needs to hit or minutes throughout the season that he needs to hit for like development and growth, etc., then that's fine. But if there isn't, if he's not truly ready, does it really make sense to toss him into a game like this when you're playing against one of the best teams in the East, never mind one of the best teams in the league? I'm not sure. So again, like, I don't want it to get lost, and I know maybe I'm sounding extremely harsh, but he's a 15-year-old who's doing incredible things, far better than I could ever imagine, far better than my children will probably ever be, far better than most kids across the world will ever be. But the reality is that, like, I don't know that this was the right game to put him on. U.S. Open Cup game, which often gets players to get a trial, get a run in, etc. Like, maybe that makes more sense, which obviously has already happened, because wasn't he a starter against, was it Indy 11 or was it Pittsburgh?
Or one of them. Yeah, he did start in the U.S. Open Cup. Which
is, I think, like the perfect spot for him to sort of feel it out, right? Especially against USL teams at that early stage. But I remain a little.
Both, by the way.
Yeah.
I just looked it up.
Start against both, then that's fantastic. I think that's maybe the right setting to get them going. But I also understand that they're working backwards by the sign, right? They have this expiration date on a player that they want to get the most out of, and maybe this is the next step. And I know that everyone's growth as a player is not linear. It's not always going to be, like going straight up. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and hopefully after they rebound, they go up higher. And hopefully after this match, and I'm talking like Cavan shit the bed or did terrible, but like I don't know that this was the right situation. But then again, who are we to question Carnell considering what he's done this year? So I come at it from both angles, and I know I'm sort of countering what I'm saying, but also sort of countering what I'm also saying. So I guess I'm just trying to provide a little bit of both angles in one single monologue that I'm going on right now. I don't know that this was the opportunity, but then again, if not him, who do you go with for creativity, right? And maybe that's a bigger question for what are they doing to address this type of situation.
Well, I've said it so many times on this podcast the last couple of weeks by myself, or when you've been on here, I've said the Union need to go out and get another attacking midfielder specifically. And you and I are going to beat this point dead, that they need to go out and get a U22 attacking midfielder, because that slot is so underutilized, I think, by all MLS, not just the Philadelphia Union. But these last couple games shows you that with Quinn Sullivan away, and I think you and I talked about this, Jose, where he was having a fantastic season with the Union. He does so well that he gets on the Gold Cup roster with the United States men's national team. Unfortunately, doesn't play a lot of minutes. Could have been better used here in the U.S., but again, that's going to help his stock making that roster with the U.S. playing at the international level, even if he didn't play a lot. Let's imagine if the Union did get a good enough offer this summer and they sold Quinn Sullivan. Now you need two attacking midfielders. And so I think you really see how important Quinn Sullivan is to this system, where it takes pressure off of Kai Wagner not creating all your chances. It takes pressure off of Jovan Lukic. This team lacks really anybody that has the 1v1 ability to have the confidence to take players on. That's exactly what Quinn Sullivan gives you. No offense to an Indy Vasilev or a Ben Bender, but they're not creating the chances. They're not taking players on 1v1 like a Quinn Sullivan does. And so getting Quinn back should be huge for this team. And he has been a big miss for the Union. The one stat that I was showing on the live feed, because again, podcast is live every single episode, youtube.com/freekickpod, usually live at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. the day after a game. But Cavan Sullivan becomes the second youngest player in MLS history to start a game at the age of 15 years old, 280 days. Freddie Adu set that record, obviously number one. And yeah, just Bradley Carnell wanted to provide some kind of offensive spark. Bradley Carnell talked after the game about Cavan coming on, making his debut in MLS, starting for the Union, making his debut starting, playing 61 minutes, and just how the Union tried to utilize him last night.
Yeah, we try to roll Cavan out in a little bit more of a wingback position with the ball. And I think he got one or two looks in the first half where in a transition we can start creating something. And, Cavan's a natural counterpresser of the ball. So he's busy. I mean, these experiences are good for him. Can also, on the other side, just calm everybody down. Because there's a lot of hype around Cavan, and at times, he gets muscled off the ball, which is totally natural. So he's not quite there where he needs to be from a physical standpoint, but he's a very talented kid, and I think this was a good indicator of where Cavan is. And we just need to now, progress him and make sure that we're not putting him in any way under pressure, or Cavan's performing right where he needs to be.
Yeah, and Bradley had hit on something there that, they want to protect him, not have the pressure on him, because, there already is so much pressure on him. I mean, there was pressure on him before he even played a single minute for the Philadelphia Union. When you get bought at the age of 14 years old from Man City for $6 million without stepping foot on the field, there's already so much pressure on you. You see how much the league, the team markets Cavan Sullivan. There's a ton of pressure on this 15-year-old kid and everything. There's a lot I know to take away from what Bradley Carnell had just said there, Jose. But I do find it interesting that, Bradley points out his counter-pressing, and I read the numbers earlier. He had better defensive stats than he did offensively.
And that's fine. I'm not stuck on that. I believe you. And I think that's great. What was his line about not putting him into any pressure, right? Is that what he said? Like, take the obviously take the pressure. He gets that MLS start. The dumb tweets from MLS Soccer, and I say that as someone who's contracted by MLS, so please, big Daddy Garber, don't fire me or whoever makes those decisions. But if it comes down to this pressure stuff, the limelight, etc., why not wait till July 16th when they play against Montreal? have them play against a shitty, with all due respect to Montreal, they're professionals, better than I ever have been, will be, etc. Why not have them play against CF Montreal at Subaru Park, of all places? Why do this at Nashville, against Nashville? Like that's where I'm stuck, right? Like, okay, you're not going to put them into a quarterfinal of the U.S. Open Cup. Agreed. Against an MLS side, against Red Bulls. Totally agree. Kid gets a broken leg. Don't want that. Nobody wants that. Don't put him against Red Bull on the second leg of these matches, these back-to-backs. Fantastic. Totally get that. Totally get that. Even though it's at Super Park. Just wait for Montreal to come to town, right? Like, what was the rush that it had to be against Nashville, of all places? You tell me if I'm out of line on that, Todd. But to me, it's like, okay, give Cavan his first MLS start 2 weeks later or whatever it is against the bottom of the barrel MLS side in Montreal, where you can feel more comfortable that he's playing against grown men that are not USL, that have been around the league or probably will be around the league as that team gets picked apart every single off season, that have some serious talent, but not a whole lot of it. Let him have a run at some of these guys rather than, I don't know, the fucking team that's supporter shield bound potentially. Like, I don't know, man. I hate to pick apart Carnell's words there, but that was my immediate thought of like, why not just wait till they play the French or Canadians, whatever.
Yeah, a lot of people agree with you though in the comments. Jose Valerie says, excellent point, Jose. Mike Barrera says probably because of the missing players, but agree, Jose. You also have Cole chiming in saying, I agree, Jose. Who would you start instead? And that is a fair question.
Bender.
Yeah, exactly. That's who you've been playing with, but you know what you get with Ben Bender, not a lot of creativity, which is not a knock on Ben. I am going to be biased towards the Maryland players, but he's not giving you the creativity that Quinn Sullivan had been giving you prior to leaving for the Gold Cup. And Andy Vasilev, you've seen pretty much from the start of the season, is not going to give you a ton of creativity either, which is fine. But yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter is, Raffanello, could you have started him as one of those 10s? I mean,
shit, yeah. I mean, he did fine against St. Louis, right? Like, again, like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm stuck in that. What's that?
You had other options, and why you would go with Cavan away at Nashville, I don't know.
It feels like, and if Bradley Carnell ever wants to talk one-on-one about this or talk period, whatever, like connect with me, happy to listen and agree or disagree, whatever, have a healthy conversation. But this is one hill that I'm feeling pretty good about in my standing, where like, why Nashville? Like, was there more to it? I don't know. Like, I mean, we saw the kid not show up on the roster randomly to then go to a Union 2 game and then suddenly come back and be a starter. Like, that just feels really odd. And maybe there's things behind the scenes that I know about, I don't know about, can talk about, cannot talk about, whatever. I'll never divulge. But the reality is that, like, this just feels it just doesn't seem like this was the right moment to I guess Carnell also said, I don't want to speak for him. You have the clip, but like, was it to also assess where he is and his development? Okay, that's fine.
He's happy with where Cavan's at in his development.
Okay, and that's fine. But like, I hate to say ease him into it, but like, this felt like throwing him into a fire versus maybe easing him into the league being MLS in terms of Montreal. We can move on, but that was just one immediate thing that came to mind during that clip. I'm sorry, Todd.
Yeah, and he talks about how Cavan's not there physically yet, and you start him against one of the most physical teams in MLS in Nashville, which you saw the Union prior get out-muscled, which hasn't happened often, by Nashville at Subaru Park. And you start a 15-year-old against one of the most physical teams. It doesn't make a whole bunch of sense to me. But again, maybe it's just Carnell looking for any kind of offensive spark, which the Union have needed. And it's a good segue into the next point. The lack of goals chances created the last 3 games, only 1 goal in 3 games. During that stretch, the Union had 1 win, 2 losses. A whole bunch of stats I'll give you guys, and then I'll go ahead and play another clip with Carnell talking about that exact stat, just 1 goal in the last 3 games. That one goal was off of a penalty. We talked about it at the beginning of the show against Chicago with Bruno Damiani in the 10th minute. One thing that's a little bit of a concern for me is over 270 minutes now since the last goal from open play. Your only goal in the last 3 games was a penalty kick. And again, that points to the lack of chances created. Quinn Sullivan coming back should be a big help. I saw a comment, I believe it was Cole, saying, do we think that Quinn and Nate should start this Wednesday against New York Red Bulls? I mean, they're fresh. I don't see why they wouldn't play significant minutes. Do they start exactly? We'll see what Bradley Carnell says, but they're healthy. They should be good to go since they didn't get many minutes with US in the Gold Cup. But over 270 minutes since a last goal from open play, that's not great. It's the second time this season that the Union have had consecutive games without a goal. That was Orlando and New York City earlier in the season. A 0-0 draw against Orlando City at Subaru Park, and then a 1-0 loss against New York City, which was such a fun night for us, Jose. Such a fun night in New York. And the second time this season that the Union have scored 1 goal in 3 games. They did that during a run of into Miami, Orlando, and New York City. 0-2-1 in those games. And now, like I had said, during this stretch of 3 games, 1-2-0. Prior to the game against Nashville, Union have only created 8 chances. That's an average of 4 per game. Prior to this game against Nashville, they averaged 11.5 chances created per game. 11.5 chances. And prior to this game, you only create 2 chances on 8 chances, 4 in each game. I mean, it's so obvious that this team is lacking chance creators, and a big part of it is Quinn Sullivan not being here. Mikal Ur, I would argue, too, being out injured and everything. Yes, you want your striker scoring goals, but there's runs in behind. Yes, he has a couple assists on the season. I would argue that Mikal Ur being out makes a difference as well. And so, yeah, it's not looking great for the Union. You have Tai Baribo, who, yes, doesn't have a ton of assists. I think he only has 1 assist on the season, 13 goals. But the Union have had to find ways to pick and choose the lineups with players to their credit stepping up. You have Marcus Anderson a few weeks ago scoring in Charlotte. Jesus Bueno scored in that game. Bruno Damiani hasn't scored a lot. You have found players stepping up here. But the truth of the matter is you play against the better teams in Columbus and Nashville. And what happens? You don't create too many chances. You don't get a lot of goals. And you struggle against the better teams. And it's only a matter of time before Columbus potentially leapfrogs the Union in the Supporter Shield standings. It just happened with Nashville. And yes, the Union need to go out and get another attacking midfielder. Now, the good thing is, right, I don't believe, Jose, maybe you know this off the top of your head, there shouldn't be any international competitions coming up for quite a while. So the Union should be set with players staying on international duty.
There's 2 FIFA windows, September and October.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you have
all
the
of August
July window to get through. You have all of August to get through, and then you have those windows coming up. Does Quinn Sullivan get another call up with the U.S. in those windows? Maybe not, since he didn't play a lot with the U.S. at the Gold Cup. But again, the truth of the matter is, I think this proves, and I know I'm saying that over and over again, but I think this just proves that the Union need to go out and get another creative midfielder.
Yeah, I think Nate's time with the national team, I think, man, he didn't do himself any favors during that single match that he played. In fact, I mean, he was a medical replacement and snuck away from the Union that way. So it goes to show maybe the interest in that way. I'm trying to pull up the FIFA International window calendar, but it's taking forever. So for 2025, September 1st through the 9th, 2 matches. October 6th through the 14th, 2 matches available for teams. And then November 10th through the 18th, 2 matches for all teams. I think those are windows that are actually observed by MLS, at least some of them. I maybe not November, because I think that's in the... Say it again?
Shockingly, if it is.
I think the November one's the one that isn't, because I do remember them having a window in the middle of the playoffs, or I think it was observed, but it was just that just happened to land when all the teams had their crazy break in between matches, and obviously Thanksgiving, etc. So yeah, I don't know what international windows are tough because I always say this to people, and maybe this is the bigger picture mentality, but like I think it's a great sign that this many players get called up to international teams, right? It means that they're getting the best of the best from these nations to come and play for the union, but that also comes with a bit of a price to pay in terms of international call-ups that take them away to, again, be best of the best from some nations. So difficult stuff there to work through, and even worse so when there are injuries involved.
All right, so here's Bradley Carnell talking about the scoreless streak that the Union are currently on, 1 goal in the last 3 games, and talking about the missing players in Tai Baribo and Mikael Uhre and how much of a difference that it potentially makes not having them.
Yeah, probably a bit of both. I mean, yeah, it's just natural. We're going through a couple of things right now, which, if anyone expects for us to go through like unscathed throughout the season, then, you haven't been around the league long enough. We know the sort of difficulties around the league with all the congestion and what's going on and the May stretch that we had. So, I mean, yeah, no doubt, the team has performed in a certain way, and we're so happy with the boys and everyone's contributions right now. And for us to go through a 2-game stretch here without a result, and all the creation that goes with it. Like I spoke about in my opening statement, I'm happy to get the training rhythm back, to get the competitive nature back, and to be training exactly how we need to be training. So I think that's a big part of it to get back to who we are and get up back on the training field.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right? I mentioned it earlier. I thought I had that clip lined up where Bradley Carnell's talking about, all right, we're getting our players back. We'll get back to a regular training routine. And yeah, of course, with the crazy hectic May schedule that the Union had, knowing that they were going to miss players for the international duty, if you're not paying attention, if you haven't paid attention to MLS before, like this is totally normal for teams to go on a little bit of a drop when they lose key contributors during important windows. And so now that's why I said earlier, you have New York Red Bulls, you have CF Montreal, you have Houston Dynamos. On paper, it looks like it's easier results than it should potentially be against a Columbus Crew and a Nashville. And so now the Union have a potential to go ahead and start that winless or that undefeated streak again, because when the Union went scoreless against New York City and Orlando, the Union then went on that 11-game unbeaten run. And I'm not saying that's going to happen again, but yeah, when you get your key contributors back, let's see what happens with Mikael Uhre. Let's see if we get an update where he is physically. I don't know how you took it, Jose, listening to Bradley Carnell give an update midweek on Mikael Uhre talking about, yeah, we'll see if our plan is the right way. But that kind of told me that, well, could surgery potentially be in the future for Mikael Uhre? And if that's the case, do you go out and have to get another striker? Let's not forget, too, maybe the Union already have that in mind with Mikael Uhre out of contract at the end of the season. But you're going to have majority of your team back, and let's hope Frankie Westfield can recover. Let's hope that the injury to Jesus Bueno isn't too serious. You'll get Nathan Harriel back, who can apparently play any position in Bradley Carnell's team. And so, I don't know, maybe one of these games we'll see Nathan Harriel play as another number 10, which I don't think you'll get a lot of chance creation out of Nathan there, but maybe you do, because Bradley Carnell's proved that he's not afraid to try anything.
Yeah, I completely forgot that Mika is out of contract come 2025 or this year, the end of this year. I suppose that, is it already in place? I think he could be pre-negotiating already. Should he want to? Yeah, right. He could be pre-negotiating his return to Bromby or whatever. I don't know. For a January return. Same with Bedoya. Technically, I mean, we've been through this saga a couple of times, and I think those are the two that make sense, unless there are some of these 2026 options that the Union have already gone ahead and said no, not interested, in terms of Chris Donovan, Nate Harriel. God, yeah. I'm never going to pretend to be a medical professional, but it does sound like maybe Mikael's injury is a little bit worse than originally intended. Whenever you hear, I think, or whenever, this is the first time I've heard, I should say, that like, we'll see if the plan we came up with worked. It's like, that's a new one. I don't remember ever hearing that. Have you?
I've never heard that.
Okay, that's a new one for me. So yeah, hopefully he's healthy. Obviously, the union could use him, and if I think it was domesticated hoagie. What's her first name, by the way? I feel stupid.
She
calling
told
her.
us it after a game before. This was a while ago, and I forgot.
Okay. She mentioned that you called this coming, whether it was through injury or Baribo just drying up in terms of the faucet being goals. Like this is where if in the perfect world the Union would have this trident of Damiani, Ua, and Baribos taking turns, right, scoring, etc. The way it was with Ua, Carranza, and Gastag that magical year that was 2022. But unfortunately, that hasn't happened yet, or hasn't, or maybe it won't happen at all. There it is. I knew you would go searching for something that complements you, so I'm glad I mentioned it. So I mean, I don't know. I know maybe this is the best way to transition over to the Bruno Damiani talk, but I hope that Ua comes back. And games are going to be coming pretty fast, but also depends on what happens on Wednesday. Or it could slow down a little bit too.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see what the Union do, and it's so weird too, seeing that they have 2 games back to back against New York Red Bulls on Wednesday in the U.S. Open Cup, and then on Saturday, both games at Subaru Park. But yeah, you're right, Jose. Just looking ahead at the schedule again, I talked about it a little bit. You have New York Red Bulls on Wednesday, then on Saturday the 12th, Red Bulls again, then the 16th, which is a Wednesday, Montreal at home, then the 19th of July away at Houston, then the 26th, you're back at home against the Rapids, and then you're home the following week on the 9th against Toronto, and then you are away at New York Red Bulls. So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's an easier stretch, at least on paper, for the Union to go ahead and go on another run again. But the fact of the matter is, like, right, I still believe that this team needs to do work in the summer transfer window. We had talked about it, Jose, a while ago. Is there potential that Danley John Jock could leave the Union? That would be a big hole to fill if the Union get a good enough offer with, I would imagine, a lot of teams in Ligue 1 being interested in a player that has experience playing with Mets. Mets, again, back up in Ligue 1. Could they be interested in reacquiring their player? So, again, I hope the Union go out and do something this transfer window, and hopefully they don't lose any players. I do think that this is a special team. I do think that they could go on a run in MLS Cup this season, but it all depends on what they do in the summer transfer window and who they keep a hold of. But the last thing I want to go ahead and pull up, Jose, and again, a lot of comments tonight talking about Bruno Damiani, 3 goals, 0 assists, and over 1,000 minutes this season. I saw a lot of people on social media, whether it be Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, complaining about Bruno Damiani not being exactly what they would have hoped, where the Union paid $3.4 million for a player that's only scored 3 goals in MLS play, the last goal being a penalty kick. And yeah, I guess, I mean, I know your answer, Jose, because it's going to be the same as mine. We're not concerned with Bruno Damiani's lack of goals or lack of assists. He's getting in right positions. You look at his XG, it is 7.2. He has 3 goals and he should have 7 goals according to his XG. He's getting in the right positions. That's what it tells me. He's just not finishing. And starting Chris Donovan and Bruno Damiani, I don't think that's a great partnership. I also don't think the partnership of Bruno Damiani and Tai Baribo is it either. And again, it goes back to like how big of a miss Mikal Ua is. I think Ua complements both Baribo and Damiani. And so I do think because you don't have a striker that complements Bruno Damiani as well as Mikal Ua does, yeah, you do see the lack of goals from Bruno Damiani. And he has been snake bitten. It is positive seeing him getting good positions. We saw him last night getting good positions with headers. And that chance in the first half, I believe it was, where he had his shot cleared off the line by Palacios, where it's a crossing by Kai Wagner. Palacios doesn't head it away correctly. He hits it on the volley, hits the ball into the ground. It actually beats Joe Willis, but Palacios is there on the line to head it away. And it's unfortunate for Bruno Damiani. And again, I think you agree with me, Jose, that it's not a big concern as people make it out to be on social media, but I'll get you on record. Are you concerned at all?
I remain unconcerned. if that's the answer, that's where I'm standing on business. I remain not concerned on it. I think he'll come through. I mean, to have your goal cleared off the line by Palacios the way that he did, to have some of these opportunities that he's had, like, just not come through. Like, yeah, it's disappointing. Totally acknowledge that. Totally get that. Um, what was Todd? Did you mention it? I'm sorry if I missed it as I was reading something on the side. Bruno had that one touch and turn that was like, it was, I guess, was it against Atlanta where
It was
Guzan
Atlanta. Yeah.
hit that incredible save? Like, holy shit! Like, you know, some of these, who was it? Some next level saves from keepers versus Damiani. Like, some unbelievable keeper work to keep the man off of the score sheet. So no, I don't remain overly concerned about it. But you also got to remember, like, okay, people want to play the value game. This is a $3.4 million striker, not a $22 million striker like Emmanuel Latela, who has how many goals? 5 in the season, and they paid $22 million. So, maybe you feel pretty good about it, all things considered. I mean, I just want to double check, right? Emmanuel Latela. How many goals do you have, brother? Not many. Not this year. Not too many, right?
I mean, that Atlanta team's really, really bad when you look at all the money that they've spent. 19 matches, 5 goals for Latte Lot.
Five goals, 1 assist for Latte Lot, and what's Bruno at? 3 goals and
3 goals.
I don't know, man. Like, if we're gonna do the money game, then there you go. Like, you're actually getting insane value for for the player, all things considered, if you're going that way about it. But I don't know. I remain optimistic on him. He's only been here, not even, I guess, at this point, half a season. So hopefully something clicks, right? And don't know what that is, but hopefully something clicks, and maybe it's the right pairing. Because as I look at my notes, Donovan, I'm not sure what he really provided last night. It was tough to see much out of him. But then again, it's a game that they only lost 1-0, so maybe he did do something right that I'm missing.
Pressing. I mean, that's what Bradley Carnell is going to say. Presses, but I don't know. It feels like you need a little bit more from your strikers than just pressing. Had a big chance too. Bruno Damiani wins the header, flicks it into Chris Donovan right in front of Joe Willis, and I think he gets a foot on it. At least that's what it said on FootMob, that he got a foot on it, and it's an easy save there by Joe Willis. I mean, I don't know. The chances that you do create are not a ton, but when able to take advantage of them and put the ball in the back of the net. And yeah, it takes one moment of a PK. And let's not forget too that Hany Mukhtar could have scored in the 15th minute if it wasn't for a big save by Andre Blake. And then Mukhtar also hits the post. And so, yeah, this was a crazy, chaotic game last night for the Union. And they unfortunately dropped back-to-back games for the first time under head coach Bradley Carnell. But again, I'm not too concerned about Bruno Damiani, because we've seen this so many times over the years where new players come into the league, you adjust to the country, to your teammates, to all the travel in MLS, and then the previous year they come back and they do well. So I'm not too concerned about Bruno Damiani. Jose, any other thoughts? Anything else you want to bring up from last night's game? Anything in general before we go ahead and wrap the show up?
I think I would just circle back to what I said way earlier in terms of this is a Union team that lost against Supporter Shield hopefuls, if not, honestly, serious candidates, I guess I should put it as. Only lost by 1 play in each game, and both of them at very, very late stages. They're so close, and if not completely competing with some of the very, very best. So just deep breaths, from this fan base. It's so easy to fall apart, to just, like, to want to burn it all down, etc. The reality is that, like, think about where this team is at this point this year compared to last year too, right? You and I knew it because we know ball, and we've talked and whatever. Like, this is a team that's going to contend in a lot of different ways. Will they win something? I'm hopeful. Will they win everything? I don't think so. But the reality is that it's certainly an improvement from last year. Not that that's a high bar. So just hang in there. hopefully a victory on Wednesday rinses everything out, and it's another stretch of good results for the Union. Some of them will be draws, some of them will be wins, and hopefully very few losses for them. So more to come. I'm intrigued on who gets a net for Wednesday's game, honestly.
Should be Rick. Hopefully Andrew Rick.
Maybe. I don't know. Who knows?
Should be. He's deserved it. But Jose, it's been a while. Like I said in the intro, thank you so much for joining an hour and 9 minutes into the podcast. Remind the people, if they're not following you, I feel like most people that you brought here tonight on the show are already following you. They're watching on Twitter. But if they're not following you on social media, where can they check out your work?
You can find me on Twitter / Blue Sky with the same handle ish at José R. Nuñez 91. I think if you actually type in my name now on Google and put Twitter or Union, like I come up. So I think that's a good sign of SEO. So search engine optimization for those that are not aware. I think I come up for a
If
couple.
you just put in José Nuñez soccer, you come up on the first page for Google. Substack.
That's great. I think that's a good thing, right? So that's awesome. So you can find me there.
Too, apparently.
What's that?
And your LinkedIn comes up.
Oh man, that's actually a really good thing. I'm happy about that. So you can find me there on social media. I haven't posted in a little bit in Substack. That the last piece I wrote about was about the Club World Cup, and I mentioned it to Mike. I'm really struggling on how to voice this correctly, but I think this tournament, meaning the Club World Cup, really showed me. And, I'm surprised no one asked Bradley Carnell his thoughts on the Club World Cup. Seriously, I'm surprised no one has, considering the folks in our group.
It's fair.
But nonetheless, trying to put something together about the difference between fan versus customer in soccer in the United States. And I think the Club World Cup really opened up a lot of eyes during this tournament. So thank you to everybody who followed some of the Club World Cup stuff. I gained a lot of followers from it. Got to watch some incredible soccer, which is awesome. So much appreciated. We're on the up. I'm not talking about Target brand. We're on the up.
On the up.
Or is it up and up? I can't remember the Target brand. It's one of the two.
I forget. LA says for him, it's first 5 results are X, Substack, LinkedIn, Blue Sky, and Substack. I think you meant to say Substack twice, maybe. I don't know. Do you know what Substack is?
I don't know what. I know Ndamukong Suh is the guy who stomped on somebody, and his last name was SUH.
Yeah, exactly. Ndamukong Suh. What a player. What a throwback. Tennessee Titans, the Commanders. What a dirty player in the NFL. He says 2 Substack results. You have 2 Substacks, Jose?
I do not. Someone might be copy and pasting my shit, and that's okay. Listen, I do it for the people.
Somebody's wanting to be José Nuñez. Hey, look, I said the same thing. I started the show talking about Jose running 5 miles in 30 minutes. So I tried to do that prior to the show. We didn't come close. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcast of The Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, live every single podcast. And you can go ahead and check out the goals breakdown videos, which is live now. So if you guys haven't checked that out, go ahead and make sure you check it out on YouTube. Not much to break down. And then you can check out my Substack for the writing, podcast, and the goals breakdown all in one place, thefreekick.substack.com. And by the way, talking about live on YouTube, I thought we would have had a live episode or a live new intro for the episode for this game. But the guy that I'm trying to get working on this is ghosting me. And it wouldn't be the first time that somebody's ghosted me, which I'm sure is very, very evident for you guys as well. But to try to leave it on a positive note, Valerie says José Nuñez, the Dominican baseball player. Yeah, I guess
I wish.
Oh, Jose. I know your son is. You're trying to get your son into baseball, Rafa.
I know. I genuinely cried when I picked up his team pictures from T-ball, and he's got his own little baseball card. So I'm the dad with the kid baseball cards on my fridge now, which who I never imagined myself being a dad, never mind having 2 kids, and I think they're doing fairly well too. So it was a very proud moment.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So with that said, let's leave this one on a positive note. With that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.